Hello and welcome. Today we're going to discuss an important topic, the collision of trains with animals around the world. For many people, trains are simply a major means of transportation. However, unfortunately, they sometimes intersect with the lives of animals. Train collisions with animals are a significant problem that results in numerous animal fatalities and has both environmental and economic consequences. The aim of this video is to understand the impact of these collisions on wildlife, train operators, and the wider environment, as well as explore potential solutions. Section 1. Understanding train collisions with animals. The first thing we need to consider is how and why animals end up being struck by trains. It's important to realize that railway lines intersect with natural environments, forests, grasslands, wetlands, and even mountains, places where animals live and roam freely. As human infrastructure expands, the risk of these types of collisions increases. Why do animals get on the tracks? Animals, especially large mammals, are often unaware of the dangers of railways. They don't have the same understanding of human-built infrastructure. Wild animals such as deer, moose, elephants, and even big cats, as well as domestic livestock like cows, sheep, and horses are at risk. They cross rail tracks either by accident or because the tracks pass through their natural migration or grazing paths. In many areas, the surrounding environment is a key reason why these animals wander onto railway lines. For example, grassland animals may be attracted to the relatively clear land along train tracks for grazing. Other species may be following a scent trail or crossing from one area of their territory to another. But the reality is that many animals simply don't see the trains coming. Trains move at high speeds, often without warning, and the animals don't have the ability to quickly react to an approaching train. In many cases, animals are startled by the noise or vibrations of an oncoming train and panic, making it harder for them to escape in time. Section 2. Where do train animal collisions happen the most? Now let's discuss where these accidents tend to happen most frequently. Although train collisions with animals can occur anywhere, there are certain regions and specific environments where the risk is higher. One, rural and wilderness areas. The majority of animal train collisions happen in rural and wilderness areas. This is especially true in regions where the train tracks cut through forests, farmlands, or near wildlife reserves. In North America, for instance, trains that pass through forested areas in Canada and the United States are particularly prone to collisions with animals like deer, moose, and bears. Two, national parks and wildlife reserves. Many train routes pass through or near national parks and wildlife reserves. These are areas where wild animals are particularly abundant, making them vulnerable to train strikes. For example, in parts of Africa, trains that travel through savannas or near elephant migration routes are at high risk for collisions with large animals. Similarly, in India, trains that pass through areas inhabited by tigers and other wildlife are also prone to accidents. Three, Wetlands and coastal areas. Wetlands and coastal areas are another significant location for animal-train collisions. These areas are home to a variety of wildlife species, including birds, reptiles, and amphibians. Since wetlands often have many natural water courses that animals use for migration, they might not be fully aware of the nearby train tracks. For example, in parts of Europe and Asia, trains often cut through wetlands, posing a risk to waterfowl and other aquatic species. Four, agricultural zones and farmlands. In agricultural areas, domestic livestock, such as cows, horses, and sheep, are often allowed to roam freely or are kept near train tracks. When animals escape enclosures or are allowed to graze near the tracks, they are at high risk of being struck by fast-moving trains. This is particularly true in parts of the world where farming and livestock herding are common practices. Section 3. What are the consequences of train-animal collisions? The consequences of these accidents are far-reaching, impacting not just the animals, but also human life, the environment, and the economy. Let's break down these effects in detail. One, animal fatalities and injury. Of course, the most direct consequence of a train-animal collision is the death or injury of the animal involved. For wild animals, these accidents can be devastating, especially for endangered species. For example, in Africa, elephants and other large mammals are frequently killed when they cross paths with speeding trains. These tragic incidents not only result in the death of the animal, but can also disrupt local ecosystems, especially when the species in question plays an important role in the environment. For farm animals, the financial loss to farmers can be significant. If livestock is struck and killed by a train, it's not only a financial blow, but also an emotional one, as these animals may be integral to the farmer's livelihood. Can be profound. Operating a train after witnessing such a traumatic event can be emotionally taxing and may affect decision-making or response times in future situations. Three, economic costs. In terms of economic costs, train-animal collisions can be costly for train companies. Derailments, repairs, and delays all add up. Train services may be temporarily halted, and repair costs can run into the millions of dollars depending on the severity of the accident. Fourth, environmental impact. Beyond the immediate consequences, these collisions can have long-term effects on the local environment. When large mammals like elephants or big cats are killed, it can disrupt the balance of the local ecosystem. These animals may be important parts of their respective habitats, contributing to biodiversity and ecosystem health. Their deaths can have a cascading effect on other species in the area. Section 4. How can we prevent train-animal collisions? So, how can we reduce or even prevent train-animal collisions? There are a variety of strategies and solutions that can be implemented to address this issue. Let's take a closer look at some of the most effective approaches. One, wildlife overpasses and underpasses. One of the most successful methods is to build wildlife overpasses or underpasses. These structures allow animals to safely cross train tracks without coming into contact with the trains. By creating designated crossing areas, we can help ensure that animals don't have to traverse the tracks directly. These kinds of projects have been implemented successfully in several countries, including Canada and the United States, where wildlife corridors have been built over or under highways to prevent similar accidents. Two, fencing along train tracks. In areas with high animal traffic, constructing fences along railway lines can help keep animals away from the tracks. These fences need to be high enough and designed in a way that animals cannot easily get over or through them. This strategy has been used successfully in parts of Europe, where wildlife fences have reduced the number of collisions by keeping animals from wandering onto the tracks. Three, increased warning systems and sensors. Another solution is the installation of warning systems along railways. These can include motion sensors or infrared cameras that detect animals on the tracks and send signals to the train driver. These systems can help train operators slow down or stop in time to avoid a collision. Some countries are already experimenting with technologies that would use sound or light signals to warn animals of approaching trains. In theory, these systems could reduce the likelihood of animals crossing the tracks when a train is nearby. Fourth, slower train speeds in high-risk areas. Reducing train speeds in areas with frequent animal crossings is another effective strategy. Slower speeds allow drivers more time to react if they spot an animal on the tracks, and the reduced force of impact can significantly lower the severity of collisions. This may be especially important in rural or remote areas where animals are more likely to roam freely. 5. Education and awareness campaigns. Finally, increasing public awareness is crucial. Educating local communities, farmers, and railway workers about the risks and consequences of train-animal collisions can help reduce accidents. Campaigns that encourage vigilance and responsible behavior near railways can make a big difference in minimizing these incidents. In conclusion, while train-animal collisions are a significant issue, they are not an insurmountable one. With a combination of technological advancements, infrastructure changes, and public education, we can reduce the frequency and severity of these accidents. Protecting wildlife and ensuring safe, efficient transportation for people and goods is not mutually exclusive. It's something we can work toward together. The loss of individual animals. The death of an individual animal might seem like a small tragedy in the grand scheme of things. But for many species, Losing even a single member can have cascading effects. Take, for example, endangered species like the Amur leopard or the African elephant. These animals are already fighting against the threat of extinction, and each collision adds another obstacle to their survival. Every lost animal diminishes the genetic diversity of the population, which is crucial for long-term species survival. The death of a mother, for instance, can leave young animals vulnerable, reducing their chances of reaching adulthood. The ripple effect on ecosystems. These individual losses, though heartbreaking, also have broader environmental consequences. Animals play crucial roles in their ecosystems, whether as predators, prey, or even as participants in the processes that shape their environments. When a species is wiped out due to frequent train collisions, it causes a ripple effect throughout the entire ecosystem. For instance, the death of large herbivores like moose or bison can affect plant growth, which in turn impacts other species that depend on those plants for food. This disruption can cause a collapse of local ecosystems, leading to even more species losses. It's a tragedy not just for the animals involved, but for the entire balance of nature. The beauty and complexity of our ecosystems, which have evolved over millennia, are at risk when we fail to address these issues. The human cost of ignoring the problem. While the toll on animals is undeniably tragic, there's also a human cost that comes with the continuation of this problem. As we've seen earlier, these collisions not only lead to animal deaths, but can also cause economic losses for train operators, farmers, and local communities. The cost of repairs, medical treatment for injured passengers or workers, and the delay in services all add up. Moreover, when the media reports these accidents, it raises public awareness, which can bring pressure on governments to act. But in the meantime, the longer we ignore the issue, the more animals will die, and the more ecosystems will suffer. We as humans are directly contributing to these issues through our infrastructure choices. The ethical dilemma. Our responsibility. Ultimately, this situation brings us to an important question. What responsibility do we have to protect wildlife? As human populations expand and train networks grow, we find ourselves in conflict with nature. We must ask ourselves, is it acceptable to continue building these massive infrastructure projects without considering their impact on animals? For many people, the idea of protecting wildlife is an ethical issue. It is our moral responsibility to find ways to live in harmony with the planet, ensuring that our activities do not lead to unnecessary harm. While trains are essential for transportation and commerce, we cannot ignore the toll they take on the environment. A call for action, the need for immediate change. If we are to prevent further tragedy, immediate action is required. We cannot afford to wait for another headline about a wild animal's life tragically cut short on the tracks. Solutions like wildlife corridors, better fencing, slower train speeds, and innovative warning systems must be prioritized. Governments, rail companies, and environmental organizations must work together to implement these measures before more animals pay the price. But it's not only up to them, it's up to all of us. We must raise awareness, advocate for wildlife protection, and push for legislative change. When communities come together, we can create the pressure needed to implement real solutions. Final thoughts. A shared responsibility. In closing, it's important to remember that we share this planet with countless species, all of whom are deserving of protection and respect. While we continue to build and expand, we must do so with consideration for the natural world that surrounds us. Trains, while vital for human progress, must be integrated in ways that don't spell disaster for the creatures who inhabit the land. The deaths of these animals are not just sad, they are preventable. Together, through innovative solutions, thoughtful planning, and a shared sense of responsibility, we can reduce these collisions, protect wildlife, and ensure a future where both animals and humans can coexist peacefully. Thank you for watching. If you agree that it's time for change, share this message with others. Together, we can make a difference for the animals that share our world. Thank you for watching this video. If you have any questions or thoughts on this issue, feel free to share them in the comments below. Let's work together to find better ways to protect both animals and the people who rely on trains for transportation.